Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the All Aboard newsletter. Today, I'm going to be diving into a topic that some people love and some people find very uncomfortable, and that topic is networking. Okay. And so, one of the reasons that I want to talk about networking is because conference season is upon us. And so, as conference season comes, it is important for us to have a few goals when going to conferences. And so, if you're one of the people who like to go to the conferences to like drink and party and just kind of socialize, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all, right? Like these trips are meant to be restful and relaxing and full of learning and networking. And this is a lot of times what it's all about. And I think if this time is used wisely, you can create some of like the best friends you'll ever have in your life. But if you want to go with business in mind, or even if you want to do 50% business, 50% social, there are tips and tools to being a great and effective networker. And so I started going to events in, I don't know, like 2022 or something. And I remember going to my first event and not really knowing anybody. And so I tried to look back after 3 years of a crazy amount of travel. And I say this because I probably go to 12 to 15 insurance related events per year, whether it's a carrier conference, an award trip, a lead or like marketing type conference or something in between. Okay. So today that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to tell you how to network effectively and how if you network this way, it will give you the path to run in the circles with some of the best people in your industry. So let's go ahead and dive in. Looking forward to showing you how I do it. All right, everybody, we are going to dive in on networking well. And so the subtitle here is how to build a network and run in elite circles. Okay. And so what I want to talk about here is like, I'm not talking about tactics. I'm talking about like general overarching strategy to building a great network and in doing that in person at events at the conferences. Okay. So what I will tell you is that you get all types of people at these events and they are what you make of them. And so, like I said, some people go to party, some people go to network, some people go to learn, some people go to do some type of mixture of those things. And it's really up to you to decide. I tend to go to these events to meet and talk to people and generally try to learn new things. Okay. So here's kind of what I would talk about, right? Like before you start, knowing that it's conference season, I've got some ground rules to lay out for you, right? So the first one is like leave your ego at the door. I remember when I went to my first events at Allstate, like I was really turned off because I think there was a lot of people who just had like such like oversized egos for like what they were doing. And I don't mean this in a way of like their sales numbers or their book size, but like just like this feeling of self-importance, right? And like some people will gravitate to that, but it repels a lot of other people. And so one of the things I would recommend is like leave your ego at the door. And when you go into a networking event or a conference or a networking opportunity of any type, right? Like just assume a few things, right? Like just assume that nobody cares about you. They care about them, right? And that's not always the case. So it's just like sales. So, and every time you talk to somebody, like the best way to be interesting is to be interested. And so leave your ego at the door and try to learn about other people. Another thing to remember here is it doesn't matter what the person's numbers are. You can learn something from everybody. Everybody has something to add and something that like, kind of bothers me a little bit and not in like a bad way, but I always kind of just like, I always like correct people and they say, hey, like, like I hit like this new number and it's nothing compared to you. Right. And like, I always say like, look, like at the end of the day, like you can't compare everybody. And I always say like, look, there are people writing significantly more business than me. There are people who have much bigger agencies than me. There are people that are much more profitable than me. Like depending the yardstick or the measuring stick that we use, like there's always somebody better, bigger, or doing something different. Right. So like take this idea out of your head and say, look, everybody has something to add, including you and including that person that might be just getting started, coming from another industry, or somebody who's been in the game for 30 years and has been focused on retention. So maybe their sales numbers aren't as impressive as somebody else's, but maybe, you know what, they are a master at retaining clients. So, there's all types of ways to be a master and to win in this business and accept that everybody has something to add. Okay. Third, is to ask a lot of questions. Like I talk about this idea of like being interested, okay? But you don't learn unless you're curious. So if you are the one talking 85% of the time, you're probably not going to learn anything. Like maybe you impress some people, maybe you repel some people. I don't know. But like, again, my goal is to network with people and to learn. And I cannot do that if I'm not asking questions. Sometimes people want to ask me questions. And I said, it's great, but like, I want to ask you a question. And it's like, it's okay, right? Like you can just be like, hey, you've asked me some questions. Can I ask you some questions? Everybody wants to have a dialogue. Nobody wants it to be one-sided. Okay. The next one I would say, and the last one is that like networking can feel very awkward, especially if you're new, but it doesn't have to be, right? Like what I will tell you about the insurance community is that it's extremely welcoming. It doesn't matter if you're at, a carrier conference like Allstate or State Farm or Farmers, or if you're at an independent conference, or if you're at a marketing conference. Like generally speaking, people are coming to these events to talk to other people, to learn new things, and to expand their network. Okay. So everybody's there for the right reasons. And it might feel a little uncomfortable at first if you don't know anybody, but you start by meeting one or two people, and then you meet more people. And then before you know it, you've been to events for 2 or 3 years and 80% of the people there. Okay. So this is how this works. So I want to take a step back and I want to talk about something that was explained in one of Malcolm Gladwell's books. I think it was The Tipping Point. I remember reading this a few years back, and he was talking about how there's like 3 types of personalities. And, it's just like one of the ways to bucket people. And there's this idea that some people are connectors, right? They know everybody, they connect you, right? There's the mavens who seem to like know everything. Like they have a lot of depth and they have a lot of range, and like they can talk about anything seemingly for hours, right? Like they're so interesting, or like they're an expert at something. Like maybe they don't know a lot, but they're like, the authority on given subject. Okay. And then there's salespeople who, are really like the extroverted people, can sell ideas, can rally people to their cause. Maybe they're lobbying, right? And the reality is like that most people want to be either a maven, the person who's seen as the expert or knows everything, or the salesperson who is persuasive and getting people to like move in a certain direction. They said something like only like 15 or 20% of people responded that they would prefer to be a connector. And that's where I live. It's like, I want to be a connector. I want to be the guy who's introducing, this person and that person, and hopefully they link up and do some really, really cool shit. Right. So like, I always think about this idea is like when you go to an event, it doesn't matter if your natural inclination is to be, kind of like the expert or to be like the salesperson, but just for the event, take that hat off and put your connector hat on. Because if you are connecting people together, you are effectively networking. I think a lot of people come into networking saying, oh, hey, like, what do you do? Can you do something for me? Nobody wants that, right? Like, it's just kind of like, we can go online and find somebody who can do something for me, right? But if you take an active interest in the person and you say, oh, you know what? Like, that's so interesting. You should really meet this person over here because they were telling me something similar. Like, hey, so-and-so, like, have you met them? And just bring them over and connect them. And sometimes what happens when you become a connector is that you link up 2 people who build or do something really, really cool, and you're not a part of it. And that can feel kind of bad. You're like, man, like I connected them, right? That's okay. That's part of it. But when you are a connector with other people, what it kind of does for you is that one, people start to introduce other people to you, right? And there's nothing better if you need something, whether you're trying to sell something or buy something, right? Or just try to learn something, than somebody being brought to you on a warm introduction. It's just like sales, it's a referral. The other thing that happens is you become seen as the person who is super well connected, and you become kind of like that go-to person. Say, you know what, you might know the person to talk to here. Like if you think about the person who's super influential in their community, they're probably not a maven and they're probably not a salesperson. They're probably a connector. They know everybody. They've connected people for years. People feel like they've done me so many favors, and that's because they are focused on giving, not getting. Okay. So, I always talk about this book, Give and Take by Adam Grant. It is a foundational book, like in my personality, in my career. And, so I really just wanted to leave you guys with like a few tips. Okay. So the first tip is this. Remember 7-11-4. If you go back a few issues, I talked about how to build an audience effectively. And Google did research that says if you have 7 hours of interaction across 11 touch points in 4 mediums, right? So 7 hours, 11 different places, and then 4 mediums in person, online, a video chat, phone call, whatever, right? People start to feel like they know you and they have a relationship with you. And if they have a relationship with you, hopefully they know, like, and trust you. And now you have influence and some back and forth, right? This shouldn't be seen as like a game. This should happen naturally, right? Like don't do this in like kind of a manipulative way of like, oh, I've got to rack up my touch points. Like That's not what we're talking about here. Like if you're taking an interest in people, this happens kind of naturally, but there's some strategies to help you with this too, right? The second thing is focus on being a giver. Focus on what you can do to help somebody else. Because if you are focused on helping other people, I promise you it will come back around to you tenfold, okay? The world gives to the givers and it takes from the takers, okay? Most people, I think, want to be a giver. I think very few people are. And I think we all should aspire to give more than we receive. Okay. That's just my opinion. You might not agree. That's okay. But it's how I try to live my life. Third is to add value wherever you can. Right. And so this is kind of similar to being a giver. But, it's like if somebody asks a question and 20% of the answer, don't just try to answer. Be like, hey, like, I don't know if this is helpful or not, but like this might help or this might help, right? Add value wherever you can. That could be as simple as like seeing somebody like breaking down a booth and being like, hey, you need a hand? Like, just help people out. Add value wherever you can, okay? Fourth, if you see somebody alone at an event, grab them. We've all been to an event where we don't know anybody, okay? I've been to events where I see somebody kind of like showing up to the social event. They're by themselves. They order a drink. They're just kind of chilling. Go talk to them. Invite them into a circle. Invite them to a few people. Ask them a few questions. Get them talking, right? This is how it happens. We should all be looking out for each other. We should all be encouraging each other to network together because the community is really amazing. And if we think about the events that we go to, like you see the same 200 or 300 faces every single time. And then there's thousands of agents across the country within your given carrier or across the independent channel that you've never even heard of or seen, right? So like the more that we can make these events positive and great, the more that people will want to come to them, the better. It's a rising tide that lifts all boats, okay? So if you see somebody alone, don't ignore them, bring them into the conversation, okay? Number 5 is like stay in touch and follow up. So like something that happens at events is I think people sometimes think I'm on my phone texting when I'm talking to them. And what I do a lot is like, one, my phone's like always in my hand because I'm definitely addicted to my phone. Like I won't even lie about that. But something I try to do at every event is whenever I meet somebody, especially somebody new, is I'll write down their name in my notes app and kind of something about them. It helps me remember who they are. It helps me attach something because like when you're at these events, you're like talking to this person and this person, this person, this person. And then like you wake up and you're like, oh my God, like what a blur, right? And I think it's another reason to like always make sure that you have like business cards handy, okay? Like always have business cards. And so I remember when I first started going to events, I was like, no, I don't have a business card. I use LinkedIn, right? Like just add me on LinkedIn. But what I've kind of figured out, right, is that like not everybody wants to use LinkedIn. Some people want a business card. And the other thing that I've kind of figured out is that like a lot of times at events, I'll give people my business card because it's or I'll take their business card because it's just like an easy way to remember all the people you talk to. Like you don't have to put a note in your phone. And the reality is like if you do decide to go a business card route, like I'd highly recommend you like write something on the back of the business card about them or what you talked about, especially if there's a follow-up, right? But when I talk about this idea is like I take notes or I take business cards, and a lot of times like I'll shoot that person an email, a Facebook or LinkedIn message, or a text just being like, hey, you know what, Tim, it was so great to see you. You know, let's stay in touch. Or, hey, man, just like really enjoyed our conversation, you know, about how you're really maximizing your leads. Okay. That's Tim Dieter, by the way. That's who came to my mind. So, Tim, I hope you're watching. So the last thing I would just say here is, you know, follow and support people on socials. There is a massive push from a lot of people out there to build personal brands right now, myself included, right? And I could not encourage you to do it more. When you go to events, like this helps you become more known, right? Because people see you online, they follow your content. But when people are first getting started, it's not uncommon for their content to be really bad. Like I remember when I first started putting my content out, it was really bad. That's okay, right? Like that's how you get better. So follow people and support them on socials. If you see somebody posting content, like it, comment, share it, save it, right? These things help them. So follow and support them on socials and stay in touch because now if you meet somebody, you know, on the conference circuit in September of 2025, and then you see him again in April, but you guys have been interacting. Now you feel like you know each other. Why? Because you've been interacting in multiple places over multiple touch points. You followed up, you've had conversations. This is how the networking works. Okay. So I hope this is helpful, right? As we go into conference season, I think I've got 8 on my schedule in August, September, and October. I have 8. You know, keep these things in mind and like focus on being a giver, focus on meeting people, focus on trying to learn and be interested. And I think what you're going to find is that your networking and your network just explodes. Okay. So until next week, I hope this was super valuable. Thanks so much for your time, energy, and attention. I'm always here if you need me.